For the overclocking, we're going to use two programs. The first one is MSI Afterburner that we're actually using for the overclocking. And then secondly, we're going to use a benchmark to stress the GPU. And in this case, I'm using the Heaven benchmark, but you can use any. It's just important that it is actually stressing the GPU and not anything else. So to give you a quick introduction to the MSI Afterburner layout, you can see some statistics. They're not super important except for temperature probably. That's also in the bottom. There's profiles, and you can select whether you want the profile to be applied during the startup. So in your profiles, you can store different ways of adding to the clock speed of your graphics card. So we're going to revert this one, set it to the first profile. You can see some info about your computer, probably not very important except for like F12 cores and GTX 1070 that I'm using now. So first, you have a voltage control. It is disabled by default, but you can enable it. We're not going to do that here because it's the only way that you can really fuck up your hardware. So we're going to skip that one. We're going to unlock the on-screen display by giving it a toggle button. I used a numpad plus since I don't use it for anything else and it's conveniently placed. Then in the monitoring, you can select what the things are that you want to see in your on-screen display. And usually they're not super important, but what I would recommend for now is that you use at least the last of the CPUs, so CPU usage, and also your GPU usage and probably frame rate or something, because everyone always wants to see frame rate. Let's see, CPU usage. We'll select it and show in on-screen display. Don't forget to click apply if you're done doing so. So now the next thing we want to do is we have a power limit and a temperature limit, and we want to unlock the link between those. We want to put the power limit all the way to the max, but not the temperature limit, because we don't want to fry our graphics card. So we'll first do a zero test without the power limit increased, and we're going to start up the Heaven benchmark. Not going to change any settings because we'll just make it more difficult, and you want to keep benchmarks as steady as you can. So what I usually do during these fragments is I take a look at what is the rate. I take a look at what is the difference between the use in graphics card and CPU usage. So you want to make sure that it is actually your graphics card that's maxing out, because then you're actually testing your graphics card. So you can see like our graphics card, the 1070, is now at 98%, which is great, that it's basically maxed out. And the CPU usage is very low at around 16 to 20%. So that means that the graphics card is the bottleneck, which is great. So now we're going to slightly tinker with the numbers, and we're going to first put the power limit to 100, the max basically. And we're also going to increase the core clock. It's important not to change too many things at the same time, because then you don't know what you're actually messing up and why it is going to crash, because the goal is to make the computer crash. The moment you make the computer crash, it means this is too much. And you want to go as close to the maximum as you're going to get. Then when you have found that maximum, you're going to lower it a significant bit to make sure that your computer is not actually going to crash when you're going to play games. So I'm going to fast forward this bit because it is very tedious and a bit boring, and it is the heavy duty of the overclocking. So every time you're going to increase slightly the core clock speed, and then you're going to run the benchmark until it crashes. And if it crashes, you need to go down. And first you can do quite big increments of like plus 100, until at some point you can't. After you're done with the core clock, you're going to go to the memory clock. When this memory clock is up, usually you can go up a lot more than with the core clock. So I will go first plus 100 just to make sure, and plus 200, and then maybe plus 400 or plus 500. And I even went to plus 700, but then it crashed like very bad. And this is not an issue as long as you don't have your startup settings also set to this, because then your graphics card is going to start with this every time, and that would not be nice. Then you have to go and reset that, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. So don't do the startup thing until you're completely done with the overclock. When you're completely done with the overclock, what you're going to do is lower it by about 50 to 20% because you want extra headroom.